Hey everyone, my name is Scherner de la Fuente, and my talk today is Let the Junior Dev Upgrade Rails. Although, as you may have noticed, I went with kind of a Princess Bride theme to my slide deck, and so that's happening. I'm a software engineer at Roostify, which is a tech company based in San Francisco, trying to make the mortgage industry a little bit more palatable. And I work from my living room in Portland, Oregon, which is where I hail from. And my Twitter account is up there, actually both of them. I tweet as myself at Media Remedial, and I tweet as a goat at Goat User Stories. And this is actually, while I've got it up on screen, this is the second conference I've spoken at or been to where I have had new goat stickers. I'm pretty excited about them. So if you want one, even if you don't follow the account, they're really cute. So feel free to ask me for one of those when you see me out and about. And also, just before I get started, just so you know, I don't have my Twitter handle on my slides because most of the images aren't mine, and that would seem like watermarking or branding, so I don't do that. But you're welcome to tweet or social media eyes, whatever the heck you want. Okay, so I'll mostly be talking about what I think of as my junior development years at LivingSocial, which I realized as I was preparing the slide deck as exactly 2 years ago today. I started at LivingSocial as a junior engineer on September 15th, 2014 at 9 a.m. Pacific Coast time. So even as the talk began, that was my anniversary of entering tech as an engineer. So that was kind of exciting for me, maybe not for you, but I'm up on stage. So I went to a Ruby on Rails boot camp. It was about 12 weeks, and then technically I think there was a 4-week internship in there. And I met my mentor at LivingSocial at the job fair at the end of that boot camp, and she ended up hiring me. And LivingSocial actually does have, or did have, some sort of an apprenticeship program, not unlike what Joe was just talking about. So when I joined, brand new to the industry, before that I was an English professor, and so she was working or heading up the project to upgrade the app I'd end up working on for the next 2 years to Rails 3.0. I don't even know what it was before that. I assume it was Rails 2 something. So she was heading up that, and so for a few weeks in there, it was actually probably closer to a couple of months, I observed as they got the full test suite up and running. We kind of deployed the Rails branch to a staging environment and watched the logs, and we checked out New Relic and saw what was going on there, and we'd roll back the deploys and the whole kit and caboodle, and I had no idea what any of that meant. I had no idea what they were talking about. I knew some of the words, and I knew some of the ideas, but I had no idea what was slowing up things or why, if our tests were passing, everything wasn't working when we deployed, or even how to deploy, the whole thing. If anybody had asked me how to do any of the things, I might have known a little bit of, I knew some Ruby and I knew some Rails and some JavaScript, but it wasn't even that I wasn't familiar with the whole scary new code base. I didn't know what was going on. I needed training. I certainly didn't know any of the DevOpsy things that were going on. This was basically me as a new developer. So during that 3.0 upgrade, I was kind of given a connected project, which all of the developers had worked on, but I felt it was kind of a safe project. It was good. It was on Google Sheets, so I wasn't going to get in trouble. My job was to go through a list of cron tasks that folks had determined we might be able to get rid of, and my mentor assured me that deleting code was important, detail-oriented work, and so I set about going through, tracking that code through our code base. I learned Git blame. Woohoo! That's a horrible name. But I learned who was responsible for the cron tasks, and I tracked down who I should talk to about maybe deleting them. I ended up working with DevOps because I learned you have to remove cron tabs before you remove cron tasks. I never screwed that up, thank God. And I learned a bit more about that. My first PR was, I know some places advertise that you will push up code your first day. That would have been horrible. I pushed up code day 29. That was my first PR, and I felt good because I got in on before the 1 month mark. I was busy doing some other things, but it did take till day 29. So now I have a bit of a confession, which is that when one is preparing a talk like this, a lot of effort goes into updating social media, or reading social media, or just not working on one's talk. So here's what happened, is I'm in the middle of prepping the talk, and I'm thinking about the pros and cons of hiring a junior developer and why you'd want to do that, and I went to check Facebook. And my cousin Ellie, somebody had posted kind of a funny thing on her page, and it immediately resonated with me. And unfortunately, it's not connected to the Princess Bride. So Ellie is an equestrian. There's horses, and she owns a stable, and she trains riders and horses. And so I'm about to compare developers to horses is what's about to happen. It's really the worst analogy ever, but it really resonated with me. So here's what was posted on Facebook. And I'll read it for those who are visually impaired. The pros of riding green horses. They're fun, challenging, and exciting. The cons, you die. That's sort of connected to the Princess Bride, but not so much. Fortunately, I do have advanced degrees in English, so I can connect pretty much anything. But I do sort of apologize try not to push the analogy too far in your heads in terms of like junior developers, and it's bad, it's all kinds of wrong, I'm very sorry. But fortunately, as I thought, is this really a good analogy, I went looking into riding green horses, and I found a website that said things I wanted to say about the pros and cons of hiring junior developers, and one of them covered like the 4 types of green horses. And fortunately, again, English major can connect things. There's a scene in The Princess Bride with 4 horses. They're white, they're not green, but that means I can put text on them, which is awesome. See, look. So there's one. So the first green horse, or the first green developer that you might end up working with is the Army green horse. The Army green horse loves to work. They're uncomplicated. They're always looking for direction. They have a great work ethic. This is the kind of junior developer you might hope for. The cons, of course, are that they are always looking for direction, and I'll talk a bit more later about how to kind of mitigate what could be a negative effect as needing that lots of attention. The next kind of green horse is a bright green horse. This one has lots of energy, but it's level-headed. They do need extra guidance, and they get bored easily. So with that kind of horse, this is maybe for those of you who are looking to branch out a bit or focus in some of your skills on a particular area. You can bring your enthusiasm for this new thing that you want to learn to working with a junior developer and who's looking to focus their skills in a similar area, or just needs to get your enthusiasm to kind of join up with that. Then there is the camouflage green horse, and this is the horse that isn't what they seem. They seem quiet and uncomplicated, and then they don't want to listen, and they might spook easily. This is probably the horse that gives a negative reputation to junior devs from time to time. They need a lot of consistent training. They aren't for the amateur dev who maybe hasn't trained somebody up, but they have a lot of potential if you have the resources. So that's another type of green horse that you might have. And then there's the emerald green, and I suppose I should be saying green developer, but I've got this horse thing happening. So the emerald green horse is sensitive, maybe a little defensive, but they're very smart, and it can make them a bit harder to deal with because they are pretty smart. But the potential's there. Again, but they may need a more formal training environment, maybe something like what Joe was talking about earlier. LivingSocial actually had an apprentice program called the Hungry Academy, and some of my coworkers, including some junior developers who came out of that program, ended up mentoring me and then moving on, which was pretty awesome. This slide is actually directly from the website where I've read all about green horses. And the website is actually there. I think I set up Buffer to properly tweet this during my talk at some point, so you'll be able to look at where the slide deck is, and you can see that if you'd like. But it's really unfortunate that a lot of devs don't want to work with junior developers because it can really strengthen everyone. And there was a quote that I've sort of changed a bit from that website, and I'll read it. The opportunity to help a junior dev understand the fundamentals of their job is exciting for everyone. And it really is. It can be great for your application and great for you personally. No matter where you are, a junior dev can help you improve your development skills far beyond what you might get working just with a peer. There's an ability to, even if you just work with them once a week, to have that sense of accomplishment of having mentored someone and brought someone along and passing on your enthusiasm. You yourself will become better at your own code, at looking at it, at following best practices, and you'll fine-tune your communication a bit, and if it goes really horribly, you will begin to appreciate your current coworkers, which is awesome. That's really good. So there are a lot of opportunities there for everyone if you were to work with a green developer. So, okay, so we'll go back to the Princess Bride. I had to have a rodents of unusual size section. So back at LivingSocial, I leveled up by working on other projects in addition to the Rails upgrades, but I also watched my team members give and receive advice from one another. I saw them try tons of different things and fail just as often, and that's such an important skill for a junior developer to get, that you're not only expected to fail, that everyone's failing and trying things that do not work, and that's just kind of part of our job. And I not only learned more about Rails doing those upgrades, I learned just tons about the code base, which I needed to work on other projects. So it was really important for leveling up. I couldn't have a rodents of unusual size section without a capybara. It's not only a great testing framework, but look how cute it is. Oh my goodness. This slide also represents the fact that we, and I say we quite loosely, managed to get Rails 3.3.0 successfully deployed, which, you know, was cool. I didn't know how hard it was. Then we decided to upgrade to Rails 3.2. Has anyone done an upgrade to Rails 3.2 in here? Was it horrible? No, wasn't so bad. It was for me, because now I knew some things. It was kind of awful. And we spent, I don't know how many months were devoted to that. I'd go back and forth between Rails projects, but then I'd occasionally join them in what I thought of, maybe not in Princess Bride terms, but as the pit of despair. And that was mostly the pit of despair because they'd just finished upgrading Rails 3.0. They were kind of over it. Me, this was all new and exciting for me, which is a great reason to bring a junior dev onto your upgrade team if you haven't had one, because I was so excited to find why all the failures and errors were happening and dig through the code base, especially now that I knew some words and knew what they might theoretically be talking about. And then my mentor, Sonia, was great. She managed to ask me questions that I knew the answers to, which was really surprising for me. She'd say things like, do you understand what, object.method is doing here? Really specific things. And I knew I wasn't just supposed to say yes or no. I was supposed to explain what it was doing. And she'd ask me why they changed a certain thing to affect a certain kind of behavior. And I would respond with that. And it still sort of dumbfounds me that she asked me questions that I knew the answer to, because even now, I don't know if she was doing it to build up my confidence by asking me things she thought I probably pretty much knew, or if I actually knew some things, or both. Imposter syndrome is really real, and I still have it. Most of us do from time to time, but we just kind of keep storming the castle. Okay, so let's say you want to work with a green developer. Here are some key suggestions, tips, takeaways for that. You want to encourage them to ask questions and fit that into the work. Sometimes I learned that it's not in the moment that you really want to ask the questions. You want to have the process move through, and a junior developer needs to know what that timing should be and what that's like. I work remotely from my living room, so I can also ask questions, and I need to be encouraged to ask questions, or at least I did back then, and people can ignore me until they're ready to ask the questions. A lot of you probably work in offices, maybe with junior developers, so you want to, ahead of time, set up a system for when's a good time to ask you questions. If you're not pairing with somebody and you don't want to be regularly interrupted, I know some folks who have visual signals, like if I've got my headphones on, then it's heads down, or some folks had a colored Post-it note system, like different colors of Post-its if they could be interrupted, or a duck, a rubber duck that they moved into place. And I bring this up specifically because I also know of a former colleague who had a junior dev IM him and then show up in his cubicle or whatever his area was so that he could see what the response was to that IM and then get the answer while standing there staring at him. And that did not go well. That did not go well at all. In fact, that was actually a contractor junior dev, and his contract was not renewed. So set up a system ahead of time. Know ahead of time how you would like to work and get those questions answered from your junior devs. You want to demonstrate best practices and talk through that with them. That way you will be accountable to those best practices, and also they won't have to unlearn bad behavior later, and you won't have to unteach it. You want to model good code reviews, both giving and receiving feedback. Some of this I know is really obvious, but you develop shorthands with your coworkers, and when you bring a junior dev onto the team, they may not know what is appropriate or inappropriate, or what's best to give, how to give that feedback. So model that good behavior, and be open to learning something new, even from a newbie. They may be heads down studying things at night where you're kind of over that now, so they may know of a new method you haven't used before and be willing to try new things. I myself, I had good instincts when I first started, but I didn't know how to voice them as strongly as maybe I should have. But time and time again, I would identify the line where something was going wrong, for example, and then we'd try all the things everybody else thought of, and then we'd end up back at that line and then solve the problem. And that felt pretty good, but I needed to learn to trust myself, and my teammates' advice for you would be to lend a bit of that trust. And then, most importantly, teach them that mistakes happen to everyone and how to navigate from that. I don't know about you all, but I had this moment when I was a junior dev. I did a thing with Git. I did a thing, and I then went completely pale, and I broke out into a cold sweat. Moreover, I did it after 5 on a Friday. I still don't know why I did that. I had successfully rebased at least twice, so surely I could do this. Yeah, that was bad. I was tweeting a coworker of mine saying, "Please help, oh God, I'm gonna pass out." So share your failures and share your embarrassing moments so that everyone is no longer afraid to have those embarrassing moments. So we got to Rails 3.2, and in my boot camp, I had watched the boot camp move from Rails 3 something to Rails 4.0, and we started having to use the strong parameter syntax. So Carrie Miller, one of our senior devs or our lead devs at LivingSocial, had implemented the strong parameters gem into Rails 3.2, and she had made one of the controllers work with strong parameters. And I thought that one basic strong parameter syntax, params.require, maybe the model dot permit, and then there's a list of things. I thought that was it. I thought that was all there was. So I volunteered to bring our code base up to Rails 4.0 with strong params. I was ready to kill the strong parameters errors. Yeah, I did not know what I was getting myself into at all. And we basically had the strong parameters gem, and we had about 25 models and controllers. And during that time, we used every form of strong parameters that we could possibly use. And I contributed to the documentation on Stack Overflow for brand new sort of syntax for for strong parameters. And I ended up doing a conference talk on strong parameters. At the time, I hadn't even solved the biggest problem we had, but I'd done some interesting things with strong parameters. So I thought, well, I'll give this conference talk. Yeah, this was basically what the strong parameters gem was saying to me every single day as I tried to get all the things done. I wrote tests so they would fail appropriately. But we had this 1,000+ line controller, and I spent months on it, months because I had other projects, and every time I brought a senior or a lead dev up to speed on what was going wrong, it would take 2 hours. I finally found somebody who was Dan Rabinowitz. He's so awesome. He managed to get enthusiastic about what was going horribly wrong, and he had great debugging techniques, but he was also a manager on a totally different application. But every few weeks we would get together and we would debug for about an hour or two. And the day after my conference talk was accepted at Rocky Mountain Ruby on strong parameters, we solved it. We solved the mystery. And I did a whole other separate talk on that. But this is me when the code base working with strong parameters was fully implemented. During this process, the controller I worked on was used to test a new gem that was built by one of my coworkers because of what we went through with strong parameters. It's called Strong Like Bull if you want to use it to upgrade your own application, use strong parameters if you're not already doing that. I ended up doing a meetup talk specifically on this problem controller, and Yehuda Katz was the other speaker, which wasn't intimidating at all. It did lead to a job interview with him, so that was good. And then just kind of to wrap up my story of a junior developer, those years, which are like last week. Our team dropped to about half its size in the last 6 months that I was at LivingSocial, and the Rails 4x upgrade was put on hold. We'd already converted to strong parameters, thank God, but the project was put on hold, and we were no longer approved to be working on it. And what I did is anytime we were working on one of the controllers that might utilize strong params, I did it. I ran the failures and errors on our Rails 4.0 branch and our Rails 4.1 branch to see what would fail, and then I sort of fixed it anyway, like in the background of the other thing I was supposed to be doing. And during that time, I sort of snuck in to the Rails 4.0 and 4.1 branches, and I rebased them to master just periodically so that if the project got approved to work on again, it would be ready to go. There wouldn't be a whole lot of merge conflicts. And I bring that up not because I was awesome, like I barely lowered the number of errors and failures during that time, but I went from not knowing how to be in the conversation to secretly upgrading to Rails in the background. Not only because I was enthusiastic about it, but because I'd been trained to do it. And I'd been trained well, and I'd worked with good mentors, and I'd worked with a variety of levels of developers who were willing to answer my questions and work with me and pair with me. And so, I mean, that was pretty huge. And the project did come back, and then one of my coworkers who came from being a junior developer and then was promoted, maybe because he was a mentor, he and I got the full test suite running, and mostly Jeremy got it running. But we were working on issues on the day that LivingSocial laid off about half of their engineering staff. There were over 100 engineers laid off, and I was literally in the middle of rebasing for Rails 4.1, some code to push up when I got the call that I was no longer going to be working at LivingSocial. But my point is, from the very beginning to the very end of my career at LivingSocial, it was all strong parameters. And I guess I will say that somewhere in there I also became a Rails contributor. Like when somebody here upgrades to Rails 5.1, it's my fault that you're gonna have to change some tests. And so I'm sorry about that. But that's my career has been learning and advancing by upgrading Rails. And I kind of walked into the fire swamp as a junior engineer, not knowing what the heck was going on. And through the course of a couple years and a bunch of Rails upgrades, I came out a mid-level engineer and kind of a dread Pirate Roberts, that's this guy up here, who dreaded things just a bit less. So just kind of to wrap up my Princess Brideness, I guess my takeaways for this might be that you would be a dread Pirate Roberts, that you would be a leader among your peers, and that then you would make a dread Pirate Roberts, that you would raise up the next leader, and then hire a green developer for the good of the software and for everyone on the team. Volunteer to pair or mentor a junior dev, even just a little bit, to level up your own skills and to see them level up theirs. And if you're the junior dev, know that you're going to be strengthening your mentors right along as you level up yourself. And so you're not holding folks back as much as advancing the team and the individuals that you're working with. So recognize the fire swamp, the pit of despair, storm the castle anyway, it's good stuff, and own being a dread Pirate Roberts, imposter syndrome and all, and then keep going. Make another dread Pirate Roberts once you get through that fire swamp yourself. So I just want to put these folks up on the screen. The folks up on the screen, I could not have leveled up without them. They all helped me get up to speed, and I just want to thank them, and also I'm grateful for your attention today. Thank you very much.